Hello and welcome to Why Such a Fast podcast. I am joined by James from UpTech today. Hi, James. Welcome back.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. Great to have you. So today we are going to discuss what is a data breach. The best way to describe that without giving a lot of legal terminology is really a compromise of the CIA. Now, CIA is not the secret services that you might think. It actually stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the CIA is the responsibility of the data controller. Now, what do we mean by confidentiality? So we want to make sure that your data is not disclosed to unauthorized personnel or accessed by unauthorized personnel. For example, there had been an incident in the Cambridge hospital where during the pandemic, a team within the hospital created a WhatsApp group. And then later on, after the pandemic, without proper due process and authorization, somebody else was given access to the WhatsApp group, and therefore they then were exposed to patients' medical information to which they were not authorized. So there was an unauthorized access, was internal, it wasn't a hacking, but that is an example of how it can happen. I'll leave the hacking and cybersecurity to James in a minute. The other one is integrity. So you want to make sure that the data is not destroyed, whether accidentally or unlawfully. You want to make sure that it's not altered unlawfully. And you also want to make sure that it's always up to date and correct. So again, an example here where somebody made me aware of it, they have I guess they still have a Bupa insurance, and they were receiving some treatment. There were a lot of correspondence and complaints regarding the service that they received from Bupa. They were not happy. The last communication that Bupa sent, so instead of sending the communication to the policyholder, they responded to her son. So they send a letter to the son. So this is where the data set is not correctly aligned. And that was a data breach because that letter contained information about her medical situation, her health. So that was a breach of integrity and confidentiality at the same time, because her son was not authorized to that data. There is also the availability to be considered. So this is about keeping the data ready, preventing loss or unavailability of the data. So for example, if your system goes down, even if it's temporarily, unless is scheduled, like for maintenance, then it's still a data breach because the data is not available, even if it's for a short period of time. So there's been an incident, for example, where a chemist, due to fire, their filing system that was in the premises was burned because the filing system, the cabinet, was not fireproof. So that was a data breach because the data was destroyed by the fire and therefore no longer available. What's your input on this, James, from an IT perspective?
From an IT perspective, Christina, we refer to a data breach when it's unauthorized or unintended access, or someone's acquired or disclosed sensitive or confidential information that's been stored digitally within someone's computer system. The breach can occur due to various factors, including cyber attacks, human error, technical vulnerabilities. and some of those key aspects are the unauthorized access, which is normally a hacker, but it could also be a malicious insider, someone who's taking that data on purpose, or accidental exposure. So where someone has used carbon copy instead of blind copy, that kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah. So sending an email to the wrong recipient. Yeah. And you know what? You just remind me of an example. This is when I was head of data governance in my last role in a corporate. This is just shortly after the GDPR became law. We had an incident where one of the employees, they actually stole the data, they transferred data into a USB, then deleted it from the system. So the data was only in the USB, and then proceeded to bribe us to buy back and pay him. And we reported it to the police. Oh, he went on and on. So he ended up in prison, in one of the prisons that we were managing on behalf of the government, funny enough. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, when you're looking at that, especially from the hacker side of things, which, is one of the biggest forms, there is a form of cyber attack taking place every 19 seconds at this point in time. And they take up various forms, but they can be your malware infections. The most common ones at the moment are phishing attacks, which lead to ransomware attacks. Exactly what you said, someone asking for money for data to be given back. Yeah. But there's far more that along the lines of SQL injections and PUPs and identity fraud. But phishing attacks and ransomware are one of the biggest ones at the moment. And predominantly, phishing attacks are attacking and looking for human error. So that's where some of this crosses over, because it is a malicious attempt to get in, but it's not targeted at you specifically as a business. And it then also leans on the human error and the accidental exposure because someone is clicking a link. So that, and there's a huge one ongoing at the moment. There's quite a new one regarding Greater Manchester Police, where a supplier to them of their identity cards has leaked over 20,000 different points of personal data. And that has happened through a phishing attack, which has been successful. And if it is a phishing attack, then that is most likely going to come down to someone clicking the wrong link. That's not a ransomware or a virus or someone intentionally hacking those people. Someone's received an email they shouldn't have done. They've clicked the link and they've gone through. So it doesn't have to be intentional. And in most cases, from a cyber attack point of view, it's not intentional. It's highly unexpected to be targeted at anybody these days. They're attacking the fact that that information has a value to you, and that's what they're most after. So from an IT perspective, it's about that data being leaked from your digital safes.
Yeah. Thank you, James. Fantastic input as always.
Thank you, Christina. Thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. This concludes this episode, and see you all next time.